So I want to talk today a little bit about boundaries, personal boundaries. We can have rigid boundaries, we can have porous boundaries, we can have healthy boundaries. Actually, most of us use a combination of all of those depending on who it is we're working with or talking to. What our predominant boundary style is depends on, well, what we've been through, what we've adapted over life. So rigid boundaries tend to be those that people who have problems with intimacy and closeness with. These are folks who don't tend to ask for help. They tend to be very protective of their personal space, personal information. They tend to be very standoffish with others. And they just really seem a little cold, rigid. And in conflict, they tend to be pretty aggressive. Get away from me. And they can be kind of mean, manipulative when they want something. They can even gaslight you or stonewall you. Those with porous boundaries, well, these are people who have some pretty weak boundaries. These people who use this predominant style, well, they tend to overshare personal information. They just give you TMI. Or they tend to have way too much trouble saying no to everybody. They get over involved with other people's problems. They want to be fixers, or they want to be people pleasers all the time. They tend to accept abuse or disrespect. They're always afraid of being rejected by others. And they tend to use the conflict style of passive aggression, where they'll tell you yes and not show up, or they'll say, okay, I'm going to do something and not follow through. However, let's look at a healthy boundary person. People with healthy boundaries, well, first and foremost, they value what? Their own opinions. They're pretty strong in what it is that they want. And they don't compromise the values of others to get their way made. They share their personal information in a healthy, appropriate way. And they tend to know what they want, what they need, and they can communicate that in a healthy way. And they can accept when somebody tells them no. They don't take that as a personal affront. They don't try to manipulate. They don't try to gaslight. And in conflict, they use assertive communication and active listening rather than trying to bully someone or caving into what the other person wants. So, healthy boundaries are all about operant conditioning. Yeah, Thorndike and Skinner really had it right on. It is a case where what we're doing is we are training that other person how to interact with us. This is what I want. This is what I need. And it's your choice whether or not we continue to interact. See, I'm not telling you whether or not it's okay that you agree with what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, these are my boundaries. You can accept them or reject them. That's up to you. What this does is it gets the toxic folks out of your hemisphere. It gets rid of the emotional vampires, because generally, after dealing with some of these folks, you are emotionally drained. So, if you want to create healthy boundaries, if you find that you are one of those folks that your primary way of interacting, your primary boundaries are either rigid or porous, they're too strict or they're too soft, then you probably need to talk to a therapist to help you figure out why you have developed that way of interacting and functioning, and help you develop that healthy boundary for each person, because they're going to be different depending on who you're interacting with, and get your life back to the place where you are happy with who you are. Your therapist can help you figure out what your values are, what's important to you, and then you can let other people know that as well. So this is Sin. This has been a mindful moment from a Mindful Change Behavioral Health here in Boulder City, Nevada.